You're listening to another episode of the Get to Know You series on the Normal Isn't Necessary podcast. For booking inquiries or advertisement opportunities, please reach out to us, normalisn'tnecessarypodcast@gmail.com. For all things Gumballhead related, please reach out to us at the website www.gumballhead.com. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Get to Know You series on the Normal Isn't Necessary podcast. I'm your host, Gumballhead. Tonight we have a very special guest, 2020 award-winning, Grammy award-winning, Ernie C. from the band Body Count. How you doing, Ernie?
I'm doing great today. I'm doing very good.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to have you here. Extremely excited. A band I've followed for a long time. This is the Get to Know You series. So what we do on all of our episodes is we get to know you. So we're going to throw you to the wolves and get to know you a little bit.
Okay, I'm Ernie. I'm a guitar player for, as you said, the Grammy-winning band Body Count, and we've been nominated twice. We've been nominated for Black Hoodie. We didn't win, and I've been playing guitar for 50 plus years. I mean, a long while. I produced Black Sabbath. I've, put Rage Against the Machine on their first show. I've been in this rock and roll business for a while now. It's kind of, 30 years plus. So that's basically it in a nutshell.
Yeah, well, and you said Rage Against the Machine. Also, you had a little bit of a hand in the Stone Temple Pilots jumping out there, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I just put them on shows. Everyone said I produced it's written out, I produced them. No, I just put them on shows.
Yeah.
STP, they were Mighty Joe Young. They used to rehearse with us in the same room, but right across from us. And I got them their management and things like that. But right during that time, I was trying to do my own thing. I didn't have time to worry about other bands. But they found, I always say, the way to be successful is open for our band, because the bands that opened for us became bigger than we were.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because the crossover style of music that you guys play. I'm a big thrash fan, metal fan. Mm-hmm. I have been for a long time. Grunge. And hip hop, it's kind of one of those things. And the unique thing about that is I didn't grow up in a town where hip hop was big. Right. You either listen to Body Count or you listen to Luther Campbell. But my parents wouldn't let me buy that. But my dad totally dug Body Count. So he was like, all right, cool. So, with you, where you grew up, now,
Los Angeles, South Central.
Yeah, so that's not commonly known for the metal scene.
Well, when I was in high school, I played a lot of Isley Brothers stuff and top 40 kind of things. Mm-hmm. And then later on, a friend of mine who lived down the street, an older cat, he came to me and says, "Listen to this." He gave me Deep Purple, Rush, Led Zeppelin. I started listening to that stuff. And, my early guitar playing was basically top 40 stuff. And then I started getting into your heavier stuff. Then I got into a whole thing that nobody knows about, like Return to Forever and Weather Report and all that kind of crazy kind of music. So, I tried to be a musician. I always say, we're kind of 1-3-5 like pop music compared to, jazz, Al Di Meola and stuff like that.
So kind of a little bit of everything, but I think you got to be universal when it comes to being a musician, because not everybody wants to sit down and listen to my terrible cover of a Nirvana song every time I sit down with my guitar. But that's
like when we first started this band, there wasn't an avenue for us to play on, because mixing rock and hip hop and things like that wasn't really going on. But, they had Run DMC and Aerosmith, but that's a novelty. We had a real band. So when we first started going out, we opened for DRI and bands like that, Exodus. Those were the bands we opened for. We ended up opening for LA Guns and Metallica and bands like that. Because there wasn't the mixture that came later, like your Rage Against the Machines and your, bands like that.
Yeah. Well, and you grew up, I'm a punk fan. I've been a Black Flag fan since the 80s, New York Dolls, Sperm Birds. I love, Minor Threat.
Right.
What are some of the bands that influenced you early on?
you sound more like Ice. Ice is the punk guy. You know what I mean?
Really?
Ice is more, yeah, he's hardcore punk. Every band that you mentioned, he's listens to that in high school and stuff like that. Me myself, I'm more metal. Our first record sounds more punk. That's just because the band was so young. We matured and it sounded more metal. As we got better, it sounded more metal, but the first record is sounding more punk because it's a little looser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm basically I went and saw Van Halen here in clubs and things like that. I went and saw the Blasters and all the bands that played at Sunset Strip. I was more that guy. More metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's I throw that out there too. You had mentioned Rush a little while ago, and I always like to take the opportunity. We have a daughter, and her name is Rush, and she was
Okay.
named
Oh, there
after
you
the
go.
band. So there was just kind of a nod to my late father, and in the fact that his favorite drummer was Neil Peart, and
Oh, he's everyone's favorite drum. But I'm very curious to see this girl that they have playing for them now.
Danica,
Yeah,
she's
I want to.
she's
I want to see
wild.
her how she works in the band. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I hope she's not a novelty. Those are really big shoes to fill. You know,
Oh my God.
that's that's kind of like El Stapario or any
Yeah,
of those bands filling in. I mean,
you
if
know.
you look at Meshuggah, what would happen if the Meshuggah lost their drummer? Who would
Yeah,
step in for
exactly.
them?
You know,
So
we covered a Slayer song in Lombardo.
you
He
did.
comes and plays with us sometime. He's played with us on stage 3 or 4 times. He comes and plays with us, and it's always when you play a Slayer song, you have Slayer's drummer. That's always the greatest thing.
That's got to be. I listened when the first time I heard Rain and Blood, which is I think is the one you're referring to. It sent shivers down my spine, man. I was just like, what a cool like rendition overall of this song by a group of really just badass dudes. Um,
We've been friends with them forever. You know what I mean? Tommy and those guys. They're our friends from day one. From all the way back to Judgment Night. So we've known them 30 years plus.
yeah. No, it's really cool to just I used to think that when I started the podcast, when I first started off doing it, was very timid when it came to reaching out to people that have actually done national touring, and then I find out that we sit down and we just talk about music, and that's probably the most comfortable thing for me is just being able to talk to people about music.
Music is the most universal. We've gone around the world playing music, 7, 8, 10 times, and music is so universal. It just covers everything. I'm very fortunate to be able to do that and done it and continue to do. We have shows in Europe. We're going to play in this thing called Blood Sport or something. It's like the biggest concert in Europe. I mean, it sold out last year, 25th anniversary, and we opened for Judas Priest.
Yep. Well, and you guys play Sonic Temple here in Ohio, which
Yes,
you
yes.
guys will actually be there. You'll be there May 16th of 2026 as well. So don't forget that day
You're
event.
coming there. You're
So
coming out. See, right?
I will. I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be
Okay.
there.
Good deal.
So let's see here. 9 studio albums, or is my count off?
Is it? I have no idea. I think it's seven.
7.
Seven. I think about seven. We started. You do one every 3, 4 years. Then we had some passing. Some of our members passed, so we took about 8 years off.
Yeah.
Not doing that. And then we did it again since we came out with the Will Putney album. I call it the Will Putney era. We've done like 4 records, and it seems like we'll do another one. Seems like we want to
Yeah.
do another one.
I think it's kind of weird because there was a period of about 5 years where I kind of stepped away from metal and thrash and kind of started focusing a little bit more on the folky type music.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was going through some changes in my brain at that time,
Yeah.
and just kind of had to get away and let the brain calm down. And I think that was about during that time is when you guys might have been taking a break, but I was also like the transition from when during that period of time, music just kind of I don't know, sucked for a little while, you know,
Yeah,
because
it did. I mean, it really did. So,
so
some of the new bands, I'm liking some of the new bands now. It seems like it's kind of finding its way.
what's your thought on
Uh,
the new singer for Linkin Park?
you know,
Eh. I think a lot of you either love her or you don't. I mean, she,
right. You know,
but
yeah, I like Linkin Park. Sometimes it's hard to, like even when Sammy Hagar hopped in Van Halen, it's a hard thing to get another singer. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
just hard.
yeah.
And,
But
and, and then call it the same band name, So
I think that really is one of those things when it comes to music is you know your lead person the singer is becomes the face of the band, but they don't just become the face; they become the name. Um,
right.
it's kind of one of those things, and you know it's weird because I'm friends with the drummer from the Offspring, Brandon Pertzborn,
Oh,
and
uh-huh.
I met him during a Black Flag concert. This was my bucket list concert. Uh,
Right.
Met him and another group of great guys, that were playing the show. A couple of bands opening up for him. One of the bass players from Black Oak, Arkansas, just played a solo
Oh,
set, and
my drummer sat in with Offspring a couple times, but go ahead.
yeah, well, Brandon was playing with Black Flag, and he went on to
Hmm.
play with Marilyn Manson, and he played with let's see here, and he played with Hobbes, and he played with Limp Bizkit for their tour
Oh,
a
okay.
couple years ago, and
Uh-huh.
it's really cool because like when you make those connections and you don't like overdo it, you don't push it. Um,
Yeah.
Musicians really are just our bros. It's
Yeah.
really cool to just be able to sit back and see that. Now, I pulled some of your top albums. Uh, I recognize 4 out of the 5 of your top 5. The only
Okay.
one I'm not familiar with, which I will be by the end of the day, is Return to Forever. But Robin Trower, Sabbath,
Uh-huh.
Van Halen
Right.
1 and 2,
Right.
Zeppelin, and to see the particular Nirvana album that you find to be your favorite, just so happens to be one of my favorites as well.
It's the best one.
So
Is Ozzy Brother three plus three on there?
I only looked at the top 5, but that
Okay.
was
Okay.
from the Metal Injection interview. That's where I got that
Okay.
information
Yeah,
from.
and Trower, Trower, you gotta love Robin Trower.
Yep.
People say Hendrix. It's not Hendrix at all. It's like a sober Hendrix.
Do you know who Jimmy Mays is? He played.
No, I can't say I
He
don't
was he
know.
was the drummer for Hendrix.
No, I don't. I don't know Jimmy Williams.
Oh,
Not
okay.
really.
He's
During what era? What era? After Buddy Miles?
yep. He was during. Well, he did 5 of Hendrix's albums in the studio for him.
Okay.
He's going to be a guest on our show here in a couple of weeks. So,
Oh, very cool.
yep.
Eddie Kramer produced a song that we did.
Oh yeah, which one?
Eddie Kramer, uh, Hey Joe.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah, he produced that with
Oh
me,
really?
So yeah, and I mixed it at Electric Ladyland in New York at Hendrix's studio, and it was way out. He had some good stories.
You've been around, and I love
Well,
that.
yeah, yeah. And the thing about it was the funniest thing. I'm sitting in Electric Ladyland, right? And you got Eddie Kramer mixing your song, and it's a Hendrix song. You got Eddie Kramer mixing it. I get up the nerve to say, why did you pick us? Because on that album, he could have done Eric Clapton, PM Dawn, Slash is on there, Pat Metheny is on that record, and he chose our record. And I said, why did you pick us? He says, I think Jimmy would have liked you. I'm like, oh, I'm done. I'm done.
I I love it. I love that there's so much diversity and so much universal ability, and that's where the true musicians, the artisans of the craft, really come through. Because you look at some of these folk players, and
Mhm.
they can play folk music. That's about it. You
Right.
know, but then you look
They
at
know their G and their A and their C and their minor. Yeah.
and then you look at Steve Martin. And he's playing the banjo on punk rock records nowadays.
And Steve is great. Steve has been great for years. A lot of good musicians. Yeah.
It's wild. Let's see here. So when you did a podcast with a fella that I just recently started following, just a couple of weeks, it was
Huh?
turned out a punk podcast.
I don't know.
It was in 2024. You did the podcast with him, but I just
Okay.
came across it the other day, and he had talked a little bit about Buddhist recovery and stuff like that. And I had sent you an email a little while ago, but I don't think you saw it before we came on here, of
Hmm.
the Dharma Punks movement, which is a
Okay.
Buddhist approach to recovery. Does that ring a bell to you at all, or?
I as far as religion goes, I've been every religion there is. You know what I mean? I always say I've been Baptist, I've been Catholic, I've been I chanted Nam Myoho Renge Kyo with Herbie Hancock. Um, and I always say I've been in the music business for 40 years
Mm-hmm.
almost, so I'm Jewish also. So it covers everything.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
How much has that played into your style, or is that really not much of an influence your beliefs and your
Well, when,
spirituality?
when, when, when I first was trying to be a real musician, when I used to listen to John McLaughlin, and he had a spiritual thing about him. And I met Santana when I was young, and they had a spiritual thing about it. So I was trying to take in all that and thought to play music had to be spiritual and all that. And then I figured out, no, you don't. But I'm just always trying to find my way in religion and music and all that, kind of putting it all together. All I know is just right now in life, I just try to do what's right. So if you do what's right, everything will be right.
I love that. That's absolutely beautiful. I'm really impressed at how jovial and just happy you are. I love that. You
Well,
know,
I'm happy because I'm here. I'm fortunate to do what I had a childhood dream to do, and I'm still doing it. I mean, I'll probably do this till the lights go out, and I'm always people always say, what world do I live in? I said a world of happiness and kindness. That's the best world, man.
that's such a beautiful thing and there's not enough people in this world to do that nowadays.
No, no.
And
And
the
then
one
as
thing,
far as Richard Pryor, when people argue and fight and all this kind of stuff, Richard Pryor said the best line I ever heard in my life. He said, "Your broken ego will heal a lot faster than your broken jaw." So, just it's good to turn the other cheek sometime.
I've had that stool kicked out from underneath myself. I started a recovery program back in 2015, and I was like, "Look at what I built," and they were like, "Look at what we built," and I was
Right.
like, "Oh, okay," and it was just one word changed my outlook on everything, and it was like, all right. And that was the day that I decided that our efforts and all that we do are grassroots. And if you're in a band of four people, it's four people to make the band, not one. If you're you
Right.
know if you're working full-time job in a factory, it takes the entire team to make things tick. And I think
Right.
that was one of those moments in my life where it's time to grow up. This is grow up or get out. So how much I got to ask you this: you have children?
Mhm. Oh yeah.
How many children do you
Yeah.
have?
I have two, and I have a stepdaughter. And but I have two biological. My son's like 45 years old. He's old. He's older than us. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
he's
Well,
a banker. Yeah.
he's younger than I am.
Is
He,
that all right?
he he's younger than me. You
Yeah.
got any grandchildren yet?
I got a grandchild. All that. I got the whole get down.
Man, I love that. I love that.
I got
I
the
have
whole. And,
I have my grandchild. I have my grandson. I got another one on the way.
wow. See,
So,
they're a lot more fun. You can give them back.
yep. Yeah. Well,
You play with them, give them back.
I started over. I thought, hey, you know what? I got a choice. I can buy a Harley or I can buy, a new drum kit. And I
Right.
bought a Harley. And then I met the woman of my dreams a few months later. I still got the Harley, and she's upstairs taking care of the kids right now. So I started life over. My midlife crisis went the other way. Instead of me having all the toys, I ended up
it's
with more
it's
kids.
it's
So
all good. It's all good. In recovery, anything can happen in recovery. So
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You just celebrated how many years? 15
15,
years? Yeah.
15. Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute, and now it's kind of like the ride's got a lot smoother.
Yeah.
After a while, it gets a lot smoother, and you're able to help people, and you can give some advice, but so it's good. It's good. We do this meeting that we do, and every Tuesday I send out about 400 texts. So for the meeting, and the thing about it is I send them out in groups of like 10 or 15, so everybody won't. It's not a mass text, so everybody knows everybody's business. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So each one is individual. So I've been sending that out for about maybe 14 years. This one girl one time came to me and says, Ernie, I'm having trouble getting up on Tuesday for this meeting. Can you text me? I said, sure. And then the next week, somebody says, you text her. Can you text me? And all of a sudden, it's like 400 people. I'm texting.
Do they keep coming back?
Yeah, I mean, for a while there, we were losing young people. I mean, in their 20s, people were ODing and all kind of crazy stuff. But now it's kind of settled off a little bit.
That's good. I mean, I went through a stint. I worked in public safety. I worked as a firefighter and paramedic for a little while, and
Okay.
um, it's crazy when you get to see it firsthand on a regular basis. But to
Right.
live that life when you're not at work, it's a completely different animal. You know,
Right.
I was an addict at the time, and I got to see a lot of overdoses and this and that. And
Yeah.
I was on top of my game. I wasn't worried about it.
Right.
And then, it came to the realization one day that I got to stop this, or I'm not going to be around to keep going.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's one day the light comes on and you see everything around you because you're living in the dark up to that point. So when the lights come on, you look around and say, "Okay, I like being here, so I want to stick around and ride this train as far as it goes."
yeah, yeah. And I was looking at it too. The weather out in California, like I live in the Midwest, and
Uh-huh.
we lived in Kalamazoo, Michigan for
Oh yeah,
most.
Kalamazoo. I know,
Yeah,
I know Kalamazoo. Yeah,
do you? That's where
yeah,
that's the easiest way to explain where my hometown is, and I was there for 40 years.
yeah.
And
'Cause I
then
grew up in Detroit. Early life was in Detroit.
oh, okay, yeah, I was right between Detroit and Chicago, right in the middle there. So,
Kalamazoo.
but so if you grew up in Detroit, then you know what Midwest weather is like.
Oh yeah, but I kind of like California weather right now. Even though it's windy today, it's we have different things. It's windy, mudslide weather.
But did you see the sunshine today?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. See, we
it was
we
nice.
don't
It came out. It got to be 72, 71. You know, mid 70s, high 60s, something like that.
we hit 60 in January here today.
Oh, that's good.
It's great. It's
Yeah,
great,
that's good. I
but
know that's good.
but we're in Ohio now. We don't get the snow. We get a little ice here and there, and a little bit of snow. But man, my family up in Michigan, they're getting
Oh,
2 feet of
it
snow.
doesn't stop. It's relentless. It just comes down and comes down. And, seasons. I don't really know seasons anymore.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
have I have toured Germany in the winter. Now that's rough. Germany in the winter is rough.
I bet it's colder. I bet it's a different type of cold.
Yeah, it's like Green Bay cold.
Oh
That's
yeah,
that's, that's probably the coldest place I've ever been. And I always say I toured Germany in the winter, but Green Bay is the coldest place I've ever been.
Green Bay. All right, I'm going to write that down. Stay away from Green Bay in the winter
Oh
time.
yeah, stay away, stay away at all costs. I remember it was so cold there that we were hanging out in the mall to try to stay warm. It was like,
So what's it like when you go out? I know your best friend is Ice T, and
"Hmm,
and I I thought that he made a really nice sentiment on one of the videos that you guys did. Was he had mentioned that he wanted to start a metal band because his best friend wanted to learn how to play or wanted to play guitar. And
Right.
I was like, oh man, that's really cool. You know, I thought that was really, really neat. So with that, would you guys go on tour or even when you guys, pal around out in public, do you guys get swarmed? I mean, or is there a lot of respect like
Yeah.
in your
Well,
area?
ice is ice. Ice is ice. No matter what, he's gonna get a lot of people. But as you get older, it's a different kind of thing. When you're young, it's a whole thing. But now people give him respect and space and things like that. They want a handshake or something like that or a quick picture. And he's always doing that.
You get in on it too, though.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I do. But I have to be in a certain to be recognized. I have to be in a certain audience. He's recognized by grandmothers because he's on TV like every day.
Yeah,
So I'm just recognized from music. People have to be into music. He's recognized from a whole nother thing.
yeah. That never appealed to you, or did it? Did you ever fantasize
Uh,
about getting in the spotlight like Ice T did?
no, not at all. I mean, I wanted to play guitar. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I'm doing. I'm happy with it. I'm happy where we are. I'm doing a song with Johnny Depp. That's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. He's a guitar player. He's a musician, so I get to do something with him. I want to play a solo on that, and I played on Sin Dog's record that's going to be out. SX, not SX10. It's not SX10, but Sin Dog's new record that's going to come out. I get to play guitar. People ask me to play. Go out and
Those
play some guitar.
those guest spots got to be just absolutely thrilling. I had a podcast guest ask me one day, "Hey, would you mind coming on and doing my show?" And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"Wow, and I'm just a small time guy. I'm nobody famous, and
You
I'm just
famous?
here to spread the word. But you got to start somewhere." And this started off as a hobby, and I realized that the more that I do the podcast, the more easy it is for me to stay sober. Um,
Exactly.
I found
Exactly.
something that was nichey, and like I said, most of my podcasts they last about 20 minutes unless we're doing an interview, and we usually afford an hour or so
Okay.
for the
Uh-huh.
interviews. And then, but I do a podcast every single morning on my way to work. And next thing you know, I'm at work. Then I do
Oh,
my work day. I do another
that's
podcast on the way home, and then I do a couple of interviews during the week. And this year, we're trying to increase our goal. 10 more interviews. We want to do one per week throughout the entire year. So we want to hit
That's
52 this year.
ambitious. That's the way to do it.
So,
Think of guest spots. I did a guest spot years ago with Soundgarden. People
oh,
don't know I
cool.
played with Soundgarden on stage, and it's on their box record. They have a box record that's out. It's a video that's out, and they covered Cop Killer. I played it with them. That was kind of cool. And
That album was what got me into Body Count, but it wasn't that song that got me in. Um,
okay, okay,
but there goes the neighborhood was actually the one that really pulled my attention because Ice T.O.G. was constantly in my cassette deck, and
okay.
to hear him do
That had
something completely different, there goes the neighborhood was out, and then I was like, oh okay, and this was 19. Let's see here, that album came out.
1991, two, 90,
Yep.
91, about then. And then what happened with that was There Was a Neighborhood was on MTV and all that kind of stuff. And we had a big thing planned and they were going to make it, we were going to give away equipment and all. They had all kind of things planned. And all of a sudden the crap hit the fan. Cop Killer hit the fan and it was like, it turned to a mess. But the thing about it is that's kind of cool about that is that we stood for something. So that's why we're still around right now. There's some more than music that the band stood for. So there's some politics and we don't like politics, but it's mixed in and everything. That's why the band is still around to this day, I believe.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Cop Killer, the band would not be around or not, would not be around, but not as popular as we are.
Yeah, it wouldn't have that dominating presence that they do. You guys have not slowed down. at
No,
all.
we still play. We don't play as many shows per year because Ice is doing Law and Order, but I think we're going to start playing a little more, and we enjoy playing. I get to hang out with four of my friends that I've known for 'cause my road manager and a couple of people that work for us. I've known them from high school. You know what I mean? So I've known them 50 years. So
Yep.
it's always good to get together and we bring in, and when new people start working for the band, the same high school stories still pop up.
Things don't change when
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you live in that life. Bum Rush. When you guys wrote that, did you know
Mhm.
that was going to be a big song?
No, it's a fun song. It's kind of meant to be like almost a dance song, and it just kind of took off. The video they did the video in New York, and it just happened. All these songs, when we do records, we don't even know what direction going to go, and it just happens.
That's it's it's always great when the things that you don't plan on happening happen, and
You
you know.
we did Comfortably Numb. You want to talk about that one?
Yes, I do. Let's talk about
Okay.
that one too.
Okay, so we did Comfortably Numb. And, because I just wanted to have a song that I could really play on. And that's like the most biggest canvas you can have to play guitar.
Hmm.
So we recorded and everything. And my bass player, he works with Richie Sambora.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Richie says, "Hey, can I play on it?" So we said, "Okay, cool." So I played the guitar, and Richie Sambora played the original guitars. That was the song. Richie
Hmm.
Sambora and I played guitar together. So then we decided, there's two ways you can do songs. You can just throw them out there and see what happens, or you can get permission. So we said, okay, let's get permission. Let's ask, can we record this song? And Pink Floyd really don't do songs. Let people have permission. So we
Hmm.
asked Roger, and Roger said, "Who's that singing?" And they said Ice-T. He says, "Okay, they can do it." So Roger, they haven't talked to each other in 20 years. You know that, right? They haven't
Hmm.
talked to each other. So he said, as long as it's not Dave on there, I'm good with it. It's singing. So we went to Dave, and Dave listened to it and he said Roger approved and this and that. He listened to it and says, "I like that. Can I play on it?" And we're like, "What?" So you, if Dave wants to play on a Pink Floyd song, so he played guitars on it. And the part that Richie and I did, that's going to be on another release whenever. But Dave played the guitars, and that's like the ultimate, you know, ultimate, to have Pink Floyd. I mean, Dave play on your record.
That that's got to just be chilling. I actually played Comfortably Numb for my 17-year-old. He's really now getting into
Uh-huh.
music. He's really into Kanye, but he's branching out. He's and he just picked
I
up
hope
Pink Floyd
so.
The Wall.
Uh-huh.
He picked up Pink Floyd The Wall, and he grabbed that while he was at the music store. I think just last night. But the night before that, he was hanging out in the living room, and I said, "Hey, sit down." He had just gotten home from work. He had just worked a long
Uh-huh.
day. I said, "Sit down. I want to play a song for you." And I played Comfortably Numb for him, and I was like, "These guys that are playing this song right now." He's like, "Yeah." I said, "I get to interview them. I get to interview Ernie on Friday. I'm really excited about it." He's like, "Oh man, good for you." And then as he listened to the song, he was like, "Wow, this is a really good version of the song."
Yep,
So,
it's cool. It's cool, And and Dave said he's going to play it with us one day. He says when we're in Europe or something like that, he was going to come and play with us like 2 years ago, and something happened. It didn't happen, but we're going to play it with Dave's going to come out and play it. He said, "I'm never going to play with Pink Floyd again, so I'll come play with you guys." And I told Ice, I said the English guitar players really like me. I've done dealt with Tony Iommi.
mhm. Man, you've seen some amazing stuff in your life, and I'd almost say that I'm enamored by it, but it's like that drive and that ambition. People don't have that anymore. If
Right,
if
and I've been lucky, and but I practice to be ready for when things happen. You know.
Hmm. Well, you got to be. You got to be, and you got to be ready for anything that changes. I've recently had a personal life change that bettered my family and our financial situation and our living situation and my day-to-day happiness, and it's just a
Right.
matter of making small little tweaks that can make life different. This interview so
Exactly.
far is just bringing me so much joy. My wife actually just messaged me a moment ago and she's like, he's a fun interview. It's like, yes, he is. He really is. So,
Well,
man.
let me tell you my story. I got these rock and roll stories. I'm going to write a book. We have a book, a body count book, but it's kind of like the history of body count. But I got some rock and roll stories that I like to tell every once in a while. And the one I really like is the one of Tony Iommi. And Tony Iommi, I produced his record, and he
Hmm.
brought the guitar that he used on Iron Man to the studio one night. I'm left-handed. I'm a left-handed guitar player. So
Yes,
he
sure.
brought that guitar to the studio, and I stayed up all night playing Iron Man, posing like a kid.
How many photos in your phone of that night do you have?
No, no, it wasn't phone. It wasn't phone. This is when you didn't take a whole
Oh,
lot of
it
pictures.
was back then, huh? Okay.
Yeah. This is when you don't take a whole lot of pictures. So I don't have a lot of pictures of me and Cozy Powell and Jeff Beck and uh, Brian May. He came to the studio one night, but I got a couple pictures with Brian May, but they came to the studio and hung out. I was like, what the hell? Where am I? You know?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Some of the best experiences of life are those that we don't have captured in photographic. It's stuck
Yeah.
stuck in our head. You
So I
know.
hope that my brain continues to work so I can keep this vision in my head. But I had some good pictures of Tony Iommi, and of that. And Tony was very very nice to me. And that's when I felt that I was accepted in rock and roll when I was hanging out with those guys.
See here, you've been playing for over 50 years.
Right.
That's a long time. So let me ask you this. I
Uh-huh.
had said to my wife the other day, we were talking about Bella Fleck and we were talking about Freak Bass and we were talking about Les Claypool and some of the bass players out there.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
made a reference to her. I said about their fingers are like wood. And she didn't quite understand what I was saying, but
Hmm.
if I play my bass or I play my regular guitar, my acoustic for a few weeks, I get those calluses built up. Is
Hmm.
that is that I don't play nearly as much as you do, but
No, I don't, I don't think my fingers have calluses or anything like that. Bass players are different because they attack. I play with, Jimmy
play with
Dunlap
the
pick. So
yeah.
bass players are different, So no, I use light strings. No, But
Are you in?
you think of bass players. Well, go ahead. I was going to say bass players. I had the opportunity in my life to meet and hang with Larry Graham. Now, if you know who Larry Graham is, Larry Graham invented thumping the bass.
Yep.
He's the guy who invented it. He played with Sly and the Family Stone. So I've met him many a time.
Do you have any favorite musicians yourself?
Um,
Like
I
like
mean, I like I like musicians. I mean, I don't have any
sure.
favorites. I mean, I like Santana. Carlos. When I was young, I met Santana. I like Ernie Isley. When I met
Oh,
him when I was 14 years old, 13 years old, and he's always been nice to me. And every time I see him, I go back to being 14 years old. I get that
yeah.
feeling. You know what I mean? And I one time I went up to him. I said, after I won a Grammy and all this, and he knows, who I am. And I said, he said, I know who you are. And I know. And I was like, wow, this is great.
What was that like? What was that feeling like when you won your first Grammy? I mean, I know you had been nominated prior, and I'm sure there was a little bit of letdown, but when you actually won it the first time, was it like, whoa?
My manager called up and says, oh, they waited long enough. But I'm just like, well, it's like I got it when I got sober. So, so I always I can tell kids, it can get better when you get sober. So
Yeah.
that was good about that. And I got it when I was. I always say, I got it when I was, how old was it? Like 60, about 60 years old or something like that. And I was like, I'm a black man who won a Grammy playing in a speed metal band at 60 years old. Now that's a dream.
You're a unicorn,
That's
man.
living, that's living a dream.
You're an absolute unicorn. It's
Yeah.
there's just so many different differentials there, and that's always been one of those things that I've wondered too. Is you like a very diverse group of guys, in the band, but you guys are, from what I can tell, you all get along very well.
We get along. I always tell people I've had seven variations of this band. I've had
Sure.
seven variations, and because people passed and tried different combinations, the only ones that have worked is the first lineup that we had that we did two records with, and the last this group that we have now. Those are the only two that worked. There were some in the middle, like four or five in the middle, that didn't actually work. People didn't like each other. People wanted to, do different things. That we had this one bass player who was really good, but I always told him, "You're too good for my band." He played with like Patti LaBelle, really too good for the band. So I'm like, okay, we got to get the right combination of people. And right now with Juan, because Juan played with Evil Dead and all that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
he's the perfect rhythm guitarist or lead guitarist, and just the right combination of people in the band now.
Yeah, you can actually see the differences in the music over the years. The music stays similar, but just the dynamic and seeing the different band members.
And especially like each other, that's always important too. When you like each other, it comes out in the music.
Is it hard for you to stay motivated when it comes to playing, or are you pretty still dead set on being?
Yeah, I go on YouTube trying to figure out some of the stuff people are doing now. It's kind of way out. No, I get motivated. I still try to practice. I have a new guitar model that's out on sector. So I've been playing that of late. And, it gave me a couple of those to play on. So I'm still motivated. I still like the guitar. I still have a love affair with the guitar. So when I don't like the guitar anymore, you know, I played the guitar through my father's death, through kids being born, through marriage and divorce, and so the guitar has always been there. So
How long have you been playing with Schecker or Schecter?
sector, I mean, maybe over a decade for a while. I've gone through Fernandez, Gibsons, and all that kind of stuff, and they're like the best company for metal, and they treat me good, and I like them a whole lot.
I love that. Are you an Ernie Ball player too?
Uh, yeah,
First string?
I had a I think I use it. I don't really don't know which
You don't
piece
know.
to use, but
Your guitar tech takes care of that, doesn't he?
I don't. I haven't changed guitar strings in so long. Even the guitars I keep at the house, I don't change the strings on them. I never change the strings. I just if one pops, which I hardly ever do, I'll just put another string on it. I do have Ernie balls. I have an Ernie ball. Here's an interesting story. Years and years ago, I met Eddie Van Halen, and it's
Hmm.
like during the '90s. And so Eddie, I met him. Tony Iommi said, "If you ever have an opportunity, go say hi to Eddie." So I had a picture of me and Tony Iommi. So Eddie was playing at the Forum here. So I went through security and this and that, and I go up to Eddie and I hand him this picture of me and Tony. He looks at me and says, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Ernie. I produced Black Sabbath." He says, "Really?" And so he gave me his number. So the next thing I know, Eddie Van Halen's calling me all the time, playing guitar on the phone to me. I'm like, what the hell? And then during that time you had answering machines, right? So Eddie called me one time and says, hey, Ernie, it's Eddie Van Halen. Pick up. So I had that on my outgoing message on my phone. So when you called me, you heard that. So then I wanted an Ernie Ball guitar. He was that was his guitar they were making at the time. So I called up Ernie Ball. They said, "Oh, we don't make these left-handed." So I called up Eddie. I says, "Eddie, they won't make me a guitar." He says, "I'm going to have them make you a guitar." because they made one for John McEnroe. I said, they're
Oh,
going to make one for you. I said, oh, really? And so uh, he called him up and they made me a guitar. And,
wow.
I've been trying to catch up with his son, you know, with Wolfgang. We were going to do a show with Mammoth and it got canceled and this and that. But I'm making it a point when I find him, I'm just going to say, I got to go tell this story to the son, and your dad used to call me all the time.
That's wild. Yeah, I only brought up Ernie Ball in particular. They used to wind the strings in Kalamazoo. I don't know if you knew that
Oh,
or
yeah.
not, but
I knew that. I knew
yeah,
at
American
Kalamazoo. It was
Lineman too.
on the yeah. I kind of knew that. That's why I knew Kalamazoo.
Yeah, yeah. That's wild, man. Boy, you are very easy to talk to. This has been a great interview so far. What are some of the things that keep you motivated on the day to day? I mean, just to my
I get up in the morning. I go to the gym. I've been going to the gym for since I got sober.
Mhm.
I always say people say I said I don't drink, I don't smoke, I drink a lot of water, and I believe in God, and I go to the gym. So that's all you basically need to do. That's what I do.
Yep. keep your your mind clean, and keep your blood
Yeah,
clean and your
yeah.
muscle lean. So, um,
Exactly.
do you have any advice that's either been given to you in your lifetime or any advice that you've heard along the
Well,
way in your travels that you want to
the
share?
best advice is just if you believe in it, just keep on doing it. Don't change to chase something. Don't change your style. Because I started playing guitar when disco was in, and people were like, "Oh, there's never gonna be guitar players again. Disco is like what it is. You got to learn this." I'm like, "No, I like this loud stuff." And so it comes back around. Just be sincere at what you do, and and learn some stuff. Learn some music. Don't cheat. Just learn some music. Listen to all the styles. Like as we talked about earlier, just learn everything.
Do you have big plans for 2026, or is it too early in the year to do
No,
that?
we're playing. We have about 10, 15 shows, which is a lot for us right now. And we're going to go to Europe. Then we're going to come back and go back to Europe. So the year after that, we might do a record. We might start working on a record. So yeah, we're still playing. We still have the fire. It seems like the music that we're doing is just contemporary with what everyone else is doing.
So we got a record coming out 2026, or we're gonna have to wait till the till.
It'll be 27. It'll be out in 27 because we'll start working on it this year. We'll have it out next year.
So as a touring musician, Ernie, if you don't mind me asking just a couple more questions here, I don't want to take
Sure.
up too much of your time, but man, I'm just blown away by your generosity for time. Do you, when it comes to playing out and doing shows, are
Mhm.
you are you more of a fan of like doing festivals or doing concert dates or?
Now, I like festivals. I like festivals because you don't play. You play for like 45 minutes or so, but I like them a lot just because the way they flow. You don't have to do any. You just show up and play. It's not
Mhm.
like when you do some clubs. You have to do advertisements and show this and do that. And festivals, you just show up. So I like those a whole lot. As I was saying when we were talking earlier, uh, we over the past 3 years, we started wearing in ears.
Mhm.
We used to be a band that just played with just loud, or just blast the monitors on stage. We started playing with in ears, so it turns to makes the band play a whole lot better. So it's a whole new world. So
Mhm.
I'm enjoying that part of playing. And we got an amplifier. I got a new amp. These Kempers, they switch automatically. I don't have to push the buttons. They used to have to tap dance and switch buttons and stuff like that. I don't have to do that anymore. It changes with the. It's new to me.
Yep.
So some people are going, "Oh, we do that." It's new to me. I've been playing. I've been doing concerts for 30 years, so this is a whole new aspect of us playing.
I used to do in ears, but now I've got these big old things in my ear
Right.
that it kind of challenge to keep them in there sometimes.
You know,
So
the strange thing about playing with these in ears, I don't hear the band hardly anymore. I just hear a click track, and someone counts me in,
mhm,
and it's a whole different world. I mean, it makes the band more precise, you know.
yeah, and you can
But
definitely
I
tell.
think I think doing that, I couldn't have done that drinking. I can only do this sober because it's you have to listen so much. When I was drinking, I didn't listen a whole lot.
Yeah. How was the rest of the band with your sobriety? Are they
Oh,
supportive of it?
the band is basically sober. I mean, you know the band is basically sober. I mean, you could have a 6 pack of beer and it could last a whole tour.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so it's basically sober now. Everyone's basically sober.
It's wild because I've been coming across that a lot lately. And when I played out, mind you, this is 20 years ago. You know,
Hmm.
when I would do a show, there'd be a half gallon of vodka and
Yeah,
a bag of weed, and that's what we did before we went in and played a show, and it was every show, and for the longest time, I didn't like doing that. I fell off a drum riser 6 feet high playing
oh,
playing a Kiss cover song, and
right,
and I got back up and I kept playing, and the next day I didn't feel so good. So, but that
right.
was the last thing. I've gone to one concert in my entire life, one concert only. It was the first one I ever saw. It was Pantera. They were
Uh-huh.
playing with Typo Negative, and
Hmm.
that was
Oh, that's
the
good.
first and only concert I ever went to under the influence to go watch.
Right.
And
Okay.
and after I saw them play, I was like, and mind you, I was 15 at the time when I
Okay.
went
Oh, okay.
inebriated, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, it really took away from me. So a golden rule for most of my life is if I'm going to go to a concert, I'm not going to drink. Maybe have one drink. Now it's none, but
Right.
for the longest time, it was like if I'm going to go to a show, I'm not going to drink, and it
Yeah.
was
Enjoy
love
yourself.
the
Enjoy
music.
yourself.
So
Enjoy
yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
So
Cool.
was it hard for you when you give it up?
No,
Yeah.
it was time. It was just time. You know, things run their course,
Yeah.
and a beginning, middle, and end. And that was the end. So I was happy. You know, I knew to keep on going at that pace. You couldn't. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you spent some
Yes.
time with us tonight. Um,
Yes.
and honored to be in your presence today, sir. And I'm
And
gonna actually,
I'll see you in a few months.
yes, you will. You
Okay,
definitely
and
will.
hit me up if you need a pass or something to come, hang out. Okay.
Sure, we'll do. I appreciate it very much.
Okay.
So
All right.
thanks for being here tonight, and we look forward to checking in with you at a future date. And we thank you for being
Thank you
here
so
today.
much. Thank you for having me.
Likewise, man. We'll see you soon. Much
Have a
love
good
to you.
night.
You too.
You too. Congratulations on the new baby.
Hey, thanks, bro.
Okay. Bye.
See ya. You've just listened to another episode of the Get to Know You series on the Normal Isn't Necessary podcast with your host, Gumballhead. If you're interested in being on the show, please reach out to us, normalisn'tnecessarypodcast@gmail.com. Until our paths cross, stay strong, stay focused, stay sober. Much love. We'll see you soon.